This is a song called Plush. And I feel the time's a ways to go. So where you going to tomorrow? And I see that these are lies to come. Would you even care? And I feel it. And I feel it.
Hey, this is Walt from the StogieReview.com, here to do another weekly cigar review. It's a pretty rainy and dreary Thursday morning, but I decided to have a little bit of coffee, a little cigar, and help make the morning a little bit better. And this week I have a cigar that I should have done quite a while ago. It is one of the other cigars produced by Top Shelf Cigars. It's not produced by them, it is their house brand. And this particular model is the white label. Now, unlike the black and the blue, this cigar is not produced by Tobacco Tropical. This is produced by Juan Rodriguez from Don Leoncio Cigars. Now, this outfit is down in the Dominican Republic, and they also make Devil's Weed, Pinar del Rio, the Florida Cesar line, and I think there are a handful of others that they do as well. Abe Flores is also involved with this company, and if you look back on the site a little ways, you'll see that I did an interview with Abe Flores in my local shop over at Kensington, and I think Abe sat down with me for about 20 minutes, and he goes over everything that the company does and how they ensure quality and things like that. It's a pretty interesting interview. But this cigar is only available at Top Shelf Cigars from what I understand. I know that the owner was trying to broaden his retail scope, so to speak, and have other shops carry these. I don't know which shops are carrying them. I know there are, I think, 2 more in the state of Pennsylvania, one of which being Patriot Cigars in Quakertown. I'm not sure whether they carry the white label, but I'm pretty sure that they carry the black label. But so for ordering and stuff like that, just give Jim a call. I've given you his number before, and from what I hear, several of you have made calls to Jim before, and everyone's been happy with their purchase. Now, this cigar has an Ecuadorian grown Connecticut shade wrapper. I'm unsure what the binder is, but the filler is a mixture of Dominican and Nicaraguan tobaccos. And it's looking like the website is calling this a Classic Toro size, although I don't think that's what I bought. It's Classic Toro being 50 by 6. This is a little bigger than 6. I think the box that I picked it out of may have said Corona Gorda, although it does seem kind of large for Corona Gorda. But at any rate, I know there should be at least more than one size available, because there were more than one box open when with different prices when I was down there last. And the last time I was down there was last week, Thursday of last week. I was there for a blending seminar with Jose Blanco of La Aurora, and I picked up a few La Aurora products as well as a handful of Jim's stuff. This will only be my second white label. I've had several of the blue and several of the black, probably more black than anything else. But I thought it was about time to give the white label, the milder cigar of the bunch, a shot. But before I clip it, just briefly look it over. It looks very nice. It's got a very nice presentation. The band, it really stands out against this light Connecticut shade wrapper. It really pops. It looks clean, really nice. The wrapper doesn't have a ton of veins, and the veins that it does have are relatively small. It's a very smooth cigar. It's got a nice oily sheen to it. It looks very nice. I'm not seeing any defects or flaws, anything that's really catching my eye. The cap looks like it's neatly done. It's not lopsided, it's not lifting anywhere. It's, all in all, it looks like a very neat, nice, well-constructed cigar. I'm not getting much in terms of pre-light aroma. Just looking at the foot, it looks pretty compact. The draw might be a little firm, but we'll see. And pre-light draw's got some resistance to it. It's a little firm for my liking, but I think we'll get by. I'm not getting any pre-light flavor either. Nothing on the cold draw. So anyway, the Jim down at Top Shelf has got a number of cigars. He's got a white label, this one, a blue label, which is made by Tobacco Tropical, a black label that is also made by them, and he's got a red label, which is a pure Corojo. I've done a review on that as well. I also think that's made by Tobacco Tropical. At one point in time, he did have a green label, which was made by Don Pepin Garcia. But when Ashton picked up Pepin Garcia for their project, Jim was one of the unlucky ones that got dropped from his lineup because he didn't have time for the smaller batches anymore. So the green label was discontinued, and the black and blue labels picked up in notoriety, I guess. And the red label was presented, and all of them have been doing extremely well without the help of the older green label. So Jim's doing pretty well with these cigars, and I've liked all the ones that I've had so far. So we'll see how this one goes. I got my cigar lit. Resting smoke is about average. Burn is even at this point. So I obviously need to get a little bit of coffee in my system. So sit tight. I'm gonna have a little bit of coffee, smoke into my cigar a little bit, and I'll be back to look at the first third of my Top Shelf Signature Select white label. Alright, well, welcome back. I'm still plugging along on my Top Shelf Signature Select white label. I'm working through the first third now. Actually, I'm about half an hour into it. I've got a little coffee in me. I'm feeling a little more awake at this point. And, I'm really enjoying the cigar. It's not something I would consider overly complex or overly rich. The cigar seems pretty straightforward at this point, and by straightforward, the prime flavor of the cigar seems to be a subdued Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. And what I mean by that is, if you've ever smoked a Nicaraguan cigar, you know that there's a characteristic of the tobacco that it's got sort of a bitiness to it, or a bit of a zing, where this one is lacking a lot of that zing, but the same flavor component is there. You can taste that, that little bit of aggressiveness, that little bit of a zing, but it's not nearly as heavy as, any other Nicaraguan tobacco flavor would be. And I'm assuming that that's what you get when you blend the Dominican tobacco with the Nicaraguan tobacco. You really tone down that bitiness of the Nicaraguan tobacco, and it makes for a nice cigar. I'm also getting a butteriness to it, and not so much a flavor, but the sensation across the tongue, walls of the mouth, palate. I'm just getting this sort of a buttery texture, or a buttery film sort of feel, and that, I guess, I would associate with the Dominican tobacco. You're getting, because of the blend, you're getting a subdued you're getting less of that bite and more of a smooth, buttery sensation, which is nice. I'm not getting a whole lot other than that that Nicaraguan flavor. I mean, as the smoke settles off the palate, as you get that last bit of smoke out of your mouth, and you just sit and concentrate, you'll feel the Nicaraguan flavor just diminish, and then I get a very light flavor of almost like over-creamed coffee. Now I am drinking coffee, so there's the potential for the flavor to actually be coming from the coffee that I'm drinking. Now, while I'm not actually taking a sip of the coffee right after I smoke the cigar, there could just be some lingering flavors on the palate, and that's what's coming out. But I'm drinking black coffee, not creamed coffee, which is why I'm thinking that it's actually the cigar that I'm tasting that seems like over-creamed coffee. But it seems pretty straightforward, but I'm enjoying it. The body is mild to medium. And I was a little surprised by that. And not because it's got a white band, it's got a very light wrapper. I expect it to be Macanudo mild, but excuse me. Jim has 4 Signature Select lines, including this one, and the blue, black, and red do a very good job of covering from medium to full to pretty far into full with the red Pure Corojo. So when I picked this cigar up, I just naturally assumed that it was going to be the one that's going to draw in the mild cigar smoker. It's going to be very easy on the palate, very smooth, very mild. This is probably the one that the guys that, this is probably the one that's not going to be purchased if you're a black label smoker or a blue label smoker or a red label smoker. But this one's a little further up the mild, end of the spectrum than what I would have anticipated. We're looking at mild to medium. Maybe by the time I'm done, maybe medium bodied, something like that. So it's a little more towards medium than anything else, and I was kind of surprised by that. I really expected it to be further down the left, down the mild side. But all in all, it's doing well. I'm enjoying it. The burn line is pretty thin for the most part. I mean, I've got a little bit of blistering going on in one tiny section of the cigar, and that's been kind of coming and going. The ash is light in color, it's nice and firm, it holds a nice compact shape, naturally falls off the cigar after about an inch. If I let the ash grow to about an inch, sit it down in the ashtray for a second, I look over and the ash was in the ashtray, so it could have potentially fell on me, but we avoided that situation by leaving it in the ashtray. There's a nice stacking effect in the ash. It's fairly light to begin with, but then you get these sort of zebra stripes that are of like a dark gray. It's just a neat looking ash. The burn is fantastic. It looks very nice. It burns very neat, looks good. Nothing appears to be there that shouldn't be there. So all in all, it's going very well. The only complaint that I have is it's a little tight for my liking. I've become accustomed to cigars that draw freely, and this one's a little constricted. The smoke density and the smoke volume is decent. The smoke density, because of the draw being a little stiff, is just what I would call satisfactory. It's not lacking, but it's not up there and plentiful. It's not that overly dense smoke that goes through the sinuses easily. It just lingers around the room. You blow smoke rings with it. This one seems a little airy, but nothing really to complain about. It's just sort of satisfactory. It's a C, But all in all, I'm enjoying the cigar. It's going very well with the coffee. So I'm going to freshen up my coffee, take a couple of pictures, show them to you. I'll play a little music courtesy of the PodSafeMusicNetwork.com. And I'll be back. We'll take a look at the second, third, and we'll see how the top shelf Signature Select white label goes. Alright, well, I'm still plugging along on my Top Shelf Signature Select White Label by Top Shelf Cigars, or for Top Shelf Cigars by Don Leoncio Cigars. And you know, there's not a whole lot to report as far as any changes go from the first third to the second third. It's been about an hour now. The cigar's smoking nice and slow, nice and cool. The ash has changed up a little bit. It's a little more powdery at this point, and it seems to have weakened. Before it was dropping off at a little bit more than an inch. Now it's dropping off at around 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less. And it's just doing it more frequently, and it doesn't take much effort to knock the ash off the cigar, and away you go. Now the burn line is still fairly thin and even. As I mentioned, the burn rate is nice and slow. The smoke volume is decent. The density of that smoke is still satisfactory. It's not, you know, it's not quite as thick as I would like it to be, but you know, there's really not a whole lot to complain about. It's kind of marginal. You know, it gets a pass, but it's not something that's just overly pleasing or anything like that. As far as the body's concerned, there's been a little bit of progression, but not a whole lot. I mean, at this point, I would guess this cigar is going to finish out in the medium range, just judging by the slow progression so far. It's still mild to medium, not quite medium yet, but it certainly seems as though it's going to get there. The finish is longer on the palate. It's a little more buttery. It leaves a little more of that creamy, buttery sensation on the palate. It's easy on the palate. There's no real aggression. It doesn't irritate the sinuses, the nose, the throat. The resting smoke, I'm not really noticing any aroma. It's not bothering my eyes, not bothering my nose or throat, anything like that. In the flavor department, the flavor is still predominantly just a natural tobacco flavor. I'm getting that same subdued sort of Nicaraguan flavor, subdued in the fact that a lot of that zinginess or that bite from the Nicaraguan tobacco isn't there, or it's very laid back. I'm getting more of the flavors of the Dominican tobacco coming into play now. It's got more of a creamy, buttery flavor that's coming forward. Now, it's not so much of a texture anymore, but there's a flavor coming through. After you expel the smoke and the palate begins to settle a little bit, that flavor of overcreamed coffee is intensified. It's much more apparent at this point. It's almost washing out that subdued, zingy Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. It's becoming more of the laid-back, easygoing cigar that I expected it to be earlier on. Just the body's a little higher up the chain. So, at any rate, there's just not a lot to talk about at this point. It's a lot of the same with a little bit of transition here and there, and I'm still enjoying it, and it's still going very well with my black cup of coffee. No creamer, no sugar, none of that other stuff. So sit tight. I'll be back one more time. We'll do a final third wrap up of the Top Shelf Signature Select White Label, and I'll let you be on your way. Well, welcome back. It's time to close out this week's cigar review. I'm into the final third of my Top Shelf Signature Select White Label. As you can see, it's getting down to the nub. It's been about 2 hours now. The burn rate has been fantastic. It's probably a result of the draw being a little firm, and naturally, you know, you puff less. It draws out the experience, but you know, it's been very nice. The final third is really going out with a bang. I'm kind of surprised. The body has progressed into that medium range like I was expecting earlier by that slow but sure progression. You know, we've plateaued at about medium. The finish seems to have dropped off a little bit in terms of creaminess. As the body increased, I just sort of lost a little bit of that creamy texture, that sort of buttery texture. But it's still very easy on the palate, easy to get through the sinuses. The flavor department sort of reverted back to the earlier flavor, where you're getting more of a Nicaraguan tobacco flavor than you are with the Dominican tobacco. Although it's not so subdued anymore, you're getting a lot more of that aggressiveness, that bite or that zing from the Nicaraguan tobacco. The Dominican tobacco seems to be still providing a rich, buttery, creamy sort of flavor profile, but it's really secondary to the the flavors of the Nicaraguan tobacco. Sounds like my phone is ringing. I guess they'll either leave a message or they'll call back. You know, as the flavor drops off the palate, you know, things begin to settle, I'm getting that same overcreamed coffee kind of a flavor. It's very rich, it's more predominant at this point, and the flavor across the board seems to have picked up considerably. It's a much more flavorful cigar at this point. Through the sinuses, I'm getting a little bit of spice, a little bit of pepper. You know, it really is going out with a bang. The last third is definitely the higher octane portion of the cigar. You know, it's not full-bodied or extremely full-flavored or anything like that, anything that would be otherwise over the top. But it's very much full and fuller body in comparison to the earlier portions of the cigar. The draw is still a little firm. I'm getting a decent volume of smoke. The density is still satisfactory. You know, I could really go for a denser smoke, but you know, I think it's a trade-off. If I get a draw that's a little more free and a denser smoke, I think I'm going to lose some of the smoke time. So all in all, it's not bad. It's a good trade-off. It's fair. The only issue I ran into was when I removed the band, I had a little bit of wrapper damage. The band was stuck to the wrapper, and when it popped off, it peeled a layer away. I smoked right through it. It wasn't a big problem. It was kind of ugly to look at because it was this big flap of tobacco, and that was actually that little piece of ash that you saw flaking and floating in the air when I started the camera back up. But you know, all in all, it's performed very well. Burn line is thin and even. You know, the ash is moderately strong. It lasts about 3/4 of an inch and then pops off. It holds a nice shape. The color is nice and light. It's got a very nice, attractive looking striping pattern to it. The resting smoke is kind of neutral. I really don't notice it. Even if I leave the room, come back, I'm not getting anything in particular. The resting smoke is about average, again, about what I would expect for a cigar lasting this long. You know, with the price point, I'm not really sure what it is. I think I paid in the neighborhood of $6 for this cigar. And I think that the cigars are around $6, probably $7 at the most for the larger size. I sent an email to Jim. I haven't heard anything back yet. Again, I'm putting a retailer on the spot by sending an email as I'm doing the review. You know, hopefully when the written review goes up, I'll be able to list the sizes available and the range of pricing. You know, it goes from this, ends at this, and you know, boxes at 25, white lacquered, you know, dress box, well, not dress boxes, but you know, the nicer looking boxes. It's not cardboard or anything like that. You know, at $6, I think it's a good cigar, a solid cigar. You know, I don't know that I pick these up very often. The black label, I think I pay a little bit less for, and I enjoy them more. So if I had to choose between one of the top shelf Signature Select lines, I tend to gravitate toward the black label. This one, although enjoyable and milder for the morning, I really prefer the black label, or even the red label for that matter. And but again, it's not a bad cigar at all. It's nice and flavorful and enjoyable, and the price point is fair. So that's all I got for you. So hopefully I'll get a little bit more information to include in the written review, and you know, I'll provide some contact information for Jim down at Top Shelf Cigars if you're interested in trying a 5-pack or a couple or whatever the case may be. I'm sure Jim will be more than happy to ship you things. I know he's done it in the past for people that were interested in trying. He's his black label, his red label, and whatnot. And you know, he's a great guy to deal with. I've been to his shop on a number of occasions, and you know, I've always left happy. So that about does it for the Top Shelf Signature Select white label. I'm gonna probably burn my fingers smoking a little bit more. But until next week, happy smoking.